John McCain not really have any kind of environmental policy?
No, he has no environmental policy. This is what they those are the bitchinest mutton chops I've ever seen, by the way, man.
Is Elliot here? Yeah. Show him here. Show him here. Where's Tom?
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's. I mean, look, that's a fundamental difference between what the priorities of the two parties are. I mean, to me, that's the biggest issue there is too. I mean, it's I read a book on the science of global warming, and it's scary. I mean, it's happening a lot faster than we think. The atmosphere heats up, and in turn heats up the geology in the Earth, which in turn heats up the atmosphere further, and the cycle keeps going until you have what's called a runaway greenhouse effect, and that's what they mean when they refer to the tipping point. And it may be too late to stop it. If it's not, we have to hurry, and that is just not a priority for John McCain. It's just not. And I don't know. You haven't been able to find any evidence of an environmental policy that is in any way good for us, and neither have I. So I have no answer for you there.
So the end of the world doesn't really concern John McCain?
You took the words right out of my mouth. The end of the apparently, Bill Maher has a great comment. He said, "What part of you're going to die too don't the Republicans understand?"
How would you assess the modern media, the 24-hour plus channels, and their need to fill that 24 hours? Do you think it's made them increasingly fickle and 24 hours plus? The Fox and do you think that need to fill that 24 hours?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're making up. A lot of the news is made up. I mean, what's funny is as I've gotten, it's sort of been interesting because as I've gotten more and more, coverage in the press for stuff that I've done, it's been an interesting experience because I always notice that anything that I'm somehow connected to, that I read about, that I know the facts of, there's always mistakes, and there's sometimes huge mistakes. But for some reason, I always just assume that everything else around that article is 100% accurate, and the odds are that it's not. The odds are that there are errors in coverage, but there is a lot. The 24-hour news stations, I tend to avoid. I still do try to get, for the most part, I think newspapers are still the most reliable way to get your news, and from multiple sources, not just from one. So yeah, no, I think definitely there is a reduction in the legitimacy of news coverage because there's so much of it.
Yeah, I'd read somewhere that you came close to being a victim of the 9/11 terrorist attack. How did that really affect your overall worldview on politics?
I missed the first plane that hit because I was hungover. So, needless to say, I still drink. But as far as it's interesting. It's like I don't know that it's changed my worldview. I'm not extra scared because of it. I try to stay detached. I've also missed a lot of other flights for the same reason. But it hasn't really changed my worldview. I'm not scared to fly. I'm not. I do still think that the reaction in many ways from the Republicans, particularly with the invasion of Iraq, was an overreaction. I mean, this is something other countries have been dealing with forever. It's a reality, and you do have to be on top of it, and you do have to have reliable intelligence, but you don't have to, you don't have to live in complete fear. And that was, during the 2004 election, that was a tack that the Bush people took, and it worked, unfortunately. They basically said, you're in danger, and we're the only people who can save you. And that's, world leaders have been using that one for This is beyond my knowledge. This is one for our experts here from the campaign.
Obviously, he wants to get involved, whether that is in the military. We don't have the military right now. Obviously, unfortunately, I think there's on him. But he does think the genocide is up for very specifically. We need to get together and talk. I mean, this is one of the problems that we face from the government. It doesn't want to talk to people we disagree with. To talk to some of these countries we don't agree with. We need to talk to China. They have trade deals with Sudan. We need to put stricter sanctions on them to stop the government from what's doing. That's the first step. To say that we know what he's going to do. Listen, he can't tell you exactly because he's not in office yet. And I think every aspect. I can tell you this in working with the campaign and being blessed to have met him. This man is one of the most incredibly brilliant thinkers. He is very pragmatic, and he looks at situations and he evaluates the facts, the real info, and I think he makes the best decisions. And I know that it is something he absolutely is very, very concerned about and will do something. I think that's going to depend on what the situation is on January 20th when he enters the White House and looks at what the situation on the ground is to say, okay, what can we do? What are our resources? Let's start having conversations with people. Who in the global community? And I think when he does get elected, the way that the world views us is going to change. And I think we're going to get a lot more help from other people than we would if we had, God forbid, a McCain administration. They just did a poll of 26 countries around the world, and every single one of them said they wanted Barack Obama to win this election. I think that's going to help us a lot in handling problems like that, getting NATO involved, getting other countries to help us enforce sanctions. And hopefully that will help, and then we'll take it from there, or he'll take it from there. We will. This is our country. He's just going to help us.
My question is, do you think it's going to be easier for international students to get visas? I missed a semester of college because my visa came late for no reason.
Is it going to be easier for international students to get visas? My guess is that's a case by case thing. I will say that it's not the Democrats building a fence on the border. It's that philosophy tends to come from the right. So I think it will probably vary from country to country, but overall, policy-wise, I think it's going to be it will be easier. I'm going out on a limb saying that, but what I know of the Democratic policies is there's usually less fear. Well, just out of curiosity, because I respect you for this, what are you out here for? Oh, now I respect you even more.
I've done work for Obama and Hillary Clinton in the primary, so I'm not like a far right. For me, it's the war in Iraq, bringing our troops down custodians, which I know a lot of people disagree with.
Do you know that Barack Obama has outraised from military personnel by far any of the other candidates, including by far John McCain? The people over there that are actually serving this country are supporting Barack Obama because they realize, even General Petraeus has said there is no quote-unquote victory in Iraq. There is